We'll bring our meeting to order and welcome to the Wednesday, May 28, 2025 meeting of the Liberty Lake Planning Commission. We'll begin with our roll call, please.
Joe Mann,
Here.
Tom Salberg,
Here.
Jim Bumpker,
Here.
DG Garcia,
Here.
Charlie Jenks,
Here.
Dale Robbins, Phil Follier, Gene Heuschel, and Troy Mullenix.
Here. Thank you. Would you please stand and join me in the pledge to the flag? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. We'll begin with looking over our agenda. Anybody have any additions or changes to the agenda? Entertain a motion to approve. Approve. Second. Mr. Jinks and Mr. Sahlberg, thank you. All in favor? Aye. Thank you. Next is minutes. Everybody had a chance to review the minutes. Any changes or deletions or additions? Yes, sir.
A comment, we had a discussion about the impact of the warming of Lake Coeur d'Alene and potential impact of releasing heavy chemicals into the aquifer. And I think the consultant had an action item because they had never heard of that risk. And they were going to, if I recall, the consultants were going to follow up on that and get a little bit more information and document that risk.
That was during citizen comments?
No,
No?
that was
Okay.
a comment I made. I don't know when it was, but
It was right towards the end of that second workshop.
Okay. Okay, we will modify the minutes to include that.
okay.
So entertain a motion to approve the minutes as amended. Commissioner Jinks? Commissioner Foy, you second?
Sure.
Thank you, gentlemen. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Workshop versus our land use chapter red lines. Director Key.
Yes. So, oh. If I can- I'm sorry, having technical, there we go. So the major changes to the land use chapter. I wanted to just kind of start out by saying we didn't make a lot of huge changes to it. We moved the land use goals and policies into the land use chapter from its chapter 1 or 2 was the goals and policies. And we've done that with all the chapters today. Also, I updated and organized land use policies under land use goals. So you'll see some red lines there and you'll see that the numbering has changed. We had goals in one location, policies in another. And this was an effort to, it really helps to better understand the policies or how you are going to implement the goals. So it really helps to reorganize them in that fashion. Also, we reference goals and policies in the climate and environment and housing chapters. We may also have some additional goals and policies in the transportation chapter. We'll know when we get there. But I want to make sure that we're cross-referencing where there's other goals and policies related to land use. Updated the narrative regarding existing land area and use because it was very dated. Updated residential land use category descriptions, and really the most significant of those was in the single family, in the residential sections, and specifically the single family residential, which also was not terribly accurate even as to what it was then. And I'm not sure that it's been changed since 2003, to be perfectly frank. We added descriptions to this for the specific area plans because they are effectively an overlay zone. They have their own zoning regulations, so it appears, and again, keep in mind that one of our goals ultimately is to codify the SAPs with the development code. And I think that, you know, so recognizing them as within this chapter kind of helps align that future goal. So we updated the residential land use category descriptions, added descriptions of the SAPs, updated the annexation history. The last two annexations weren't even reflected in the narrative. And we updated population projections. So that's kind of the sum total. It's not as many changes as you might have expected. So, so now what I want to do is I want to stop the share on this and pull up the red line. So give me a second here. So I want to share. So one of the other things we're doing is we have kind of created a template for what we're going to, what the text and font for the comp plan is going to be. So as we're doing new chapters, we're feeding it into it, hoping that it doesn't make us crazy when we finally consolidate the final document. So that's a gift to my future self. So let's see. One of the things that I wanted to point out here in the document that I thought was that the planning principles are actually really valuable. And they actually really are still relevant today in terms of, and I think that they're actually doing a good job of this defining some of our community character. And are reflective within the goals. But so I moved that up as part of the introduction. The existing land use area and uses was moved because we were trying to, with all our chapters, after the introduction, we're trying to do the goals and policies so that it's upfront, easy to find. Don't want it buried in the document. And then I reorganized and looked at history and background. So I guess maybe the best way to do this is to see if anyone had any questions. Really, the document starts on page 2. Were there any questions or comments on page 2? All right.
No.
So how about page 3? Oh, it's all crossed out.
It's all crossed out.
Page 3 looked perfect to me.
All right.
It's almost blank.
How about page 4? Now we're getting into the goals and policies. And as you'll see, some of them changed. Planned unit development is very old school. It's actually nothing that anybody wants to do anymore, but it was the precursor to really our mixed use zones. And we really do want to encourage more mixed use because it really does help with our transportation goals, our climate goals, our community identity goals. It helps make it more pedestrian, bicycle oriented, etc. So I don't think others were particularly, land use goal 3. I replaced light rail transportation with high performance transit.
That was a good idea.
That's a great idea.
And then, as I said, I added a note, see also housing goals and policies on page XX and land use goals on page YY. If there are, as we go through these chapters and we have other chapters that have relevant goals, we will add them in the footnotes to each of the, each individual chapter so that we have the cross-reference there. But trying not to repeat them over and over again. So how about for page 5? Some of what this was, the green is just been moved from elsewhere, but the red lines obviously are new or revised language.
So you moved what was on page 2 into this area, correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct. Trying to follow a more, this was a very jumbled up chapter to begin with. It didn't make a lot of sense, the flow of it.
Yeah, this is much easier to read than the current comprehensive plan section. I think.
I think there's a typo though, the bottom on commercial where it says Mission Avenue on the south side of I-90. Mission Avenue is on the north side of I-90, is it not?
Well, Mission Avenue, oh, yeah, there's one on the south side and north side.
Yeah, when you get further east.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
okay,
yeah,
that's
so
true.
it's really important to kind of differentiate.
Separate, okay.
That's a big confusion for people. And when you say Mission Avenue, it's like, well, which Mission Avenue?
Okay. Right.
And how about for page 6? On page 7, I wanted to point out, we have not updated our comprehensive plan land use map since we had a rezone of the Meadowwood Technology campus in 2022. I debated whether to update the map just to take the date off of it. And then I thought, actually, from a historical perspective, it might be good to recognize that we're not changing it and that this has been the same map since that zone change. Thoughts on that? Does anybody have?
I couldn't read it on was this stuff here?
That is,
It's not part of the city, right?
that's correct. And on the map, the key says it's the urban growth area.
Is that what it says? Like.
Yes, and
Okay.
we talk about it there. This is, we will have our larger maps as an appendix to this, but I also, it's important that this be embedded in the document. We can.
So that is in the UGA?
Yes, that is in the UGA, and we talk about the UGA at the end of the
Yeah.
chapter.
Yeah.
And it references back to this map.
So Lisa, are we required by the state to ensure that if it's a designated land use on this map, zoning comports with this map?
So yes, that is correct.
Okay. Thank you.
And just, why is it even important to show that on the map?
It is important to show it because it's a requirement to show the adjacent UGAs. We're not ever gonna annex them, and the reality is the one to the,
Well, everything to the west is part of is in the UGA, isn't it?
No, it's not. There is, this is the only UGA abutting the city right now.
No kidding. I
Yeah.
thought everything west in the city of Spokane Valley.
Oh, yes, to the west.
Did I say east?
Yes.
Did I say east?
No, I was thinking east, but to the west,
I thought
that actually is
west.
Spokane Valley. This is the
Yeah.
unincorporated UGA. But the reality is, if that was to go anywhere, which is probably not, it would go to the valley. It's more consistent with their style of development. That little triangular piece is already fully developed. Keep in mind that the county really likes to hang on to these
Yeah.
urban growth areas when they're developing, because they want to see the potential. They're looking for income tax growth as well.
Sure.
Okay. So anyhow, long story short, we show them because they're adjacent to ours, and we talk about.
And we're required to,
We're not required to do anything. We could be approached by the property owners. In those two pieces, I'm doubtful that would ever
Yeah.
happen. We can't annex anything that is not within an urban growth area. So this is kind of, it actually goes back to the question of annexation. And what's this, does the city have any plans for annexation? And the answer is no.
No. And Tom had a very interesting dialogue with some.
And I had a very interesting dialogue with her on Saturday also.
Good grief. Okay.
So moving on to the comprehensive land use categories. So again, the description for single family, we already allow homes and duplexes, accessory dwelling units. So this is not really changing anything, but it also is kind of laying the foundation for what we know. We're going to have some development code changes, even more so, but that is actually accurate today. The mixed residential, we talk about, some of the things that we actually have proposed in the housing goals. So again, trying to anticipate what the development code changes that we want to lay the foundation for. And they're also reflected in goals and policies in housing. And then mixed use area. So before I get off of page 8, did anybody have any comments on page 8? So moving on to page 9, I moved some things around a little bit. The central business district map was floating around somewhere where it made no sense. So it seemed like this was a better location for it.
What road is that on the, I guess that would be the kind of the northeast of the central business district?
So this is Appleway. right?
Yeah, but the other northeast,
Other-
mid the east. I'm sorry.
This is Mission. This is
Okay.
this is the ramp. This is the.
What is this?
Oh, so this is Signal, this is. That's Manson. That's Manson.
Oh. Where's Walters?
Walter's over.
Way over here.
Way over.
So why did?
No, actually, I'm mistaken. That's actually Signal. That's actually
Yeah,
Signal.
it is.
This
It's
Town
Signal.
Square.
Yeah, that's Town Square right on the edge.
Oh, okay. Got it. Okay.
So any comments on page 9?
Norton.
I don't even think there was one change on that. All right. Page 11. I thought it was interesting that we talk about the aesthetic corridors, but we never named them. I know what they are, but we never named them. And then we added, this is all new, the description and the maps and the descriptions of the approved specific area plans. Again, I think this sets the table for us when we do our zoning map and create zones for within the river district so that which they have zones now. And for Liberty Village, Lakemore, Parkstone, Stone Hill. We'll have a zone for that also. Again, they have different building setbacks, et cetera, so it makes sense. Any design standards that aren't consistent with the rest of the city can be added as an overlay to those zones. So I think that I mean, we're going to be in a good position when we overhaul the code to really get these codified. So I'm really looking forward to that because it's awkward administration, shall we say. So did anybody have any comments on the a discussion around approved specific area plans?
Nope.
Urban growth area.
Talked about that.
And city annexed areas, as I said, this was updated. I don't think it's been updated since 2000, since 2006. But we've had several annexations since then. Any comments on that on that page? And population projections. Again, this is just a kind of a reiteration of what we already need in land capacity analysis and housing. And that is the land use element. Gosh, you guys are easy today.
I just think this whole format is, if you continue to do things like this, like Charlie said, I think it's very easy to follow. And if anybody else ever reads it again before 2046, they'll know what's there.
You know, really like the way you have it laid out.
Yeah.
So next steps with this, we can, given that you didn't really have any edits, I think the next step is to just, get rid of the red lines and post it on our website. And, I think I mean, as I said, there wasn't really a lot of changes, more just a refresh and an update on information that wasn't wholly accurate today, which probably was fairly accurate back in the day.
Do you need a motion for that?
Do we need a motion to do that?
Sure.
Make a motion to get rid of the red lines and post it, Dano.
Is there a second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. So.
Who did the second? Oh.
So now, the development code checklist. This is really something that this is one of our deliverables for our, periodic update grant for the second biennium. So we're not technically in the second biennium yet, but it's something that we had done for a while because we wanted to make sure that as we were going through housing and land use, that we were considering all these. This is really just informational for you at this point. And I kind of summarized it for you so that you could, up till now, we've been principally focusing on the required changes for housing. And I just want you to know that those are not the only changes that we're required to do. So this is just really something we're gonna, after we get the comp plan in, we will be addressing all the development code amendments. But for now, the intent is really just to share with you what that looks like. So basically, you already know, because we already talked about this early on, got it out of the way early, the critical area ordinance needs some very minor revisions. We know that we have to update parking standards for various housing types. And actually, I didn't really go into a lot of detail on that because there's another parking ordinance that passed in this session that further amends what we have to do there, so that's one, hang on to your seats, folks. We know that we need to amend the limited use standards for manufactured homes. They can't be more restrictive than what we have for stick-built homes. We know that we need to amend the limited use standards for ADUs. Because there are some specific standards within our code today that we are no longer allowed to require as a condition of allowing ADUs. We also need to make an explicit allowance for religious institutions to host homeless populations, whether through camping or within their buildings. That it's not, and I have to take a closer look at it. I think that because of the way we've approached emergency shelters, that it probably isn't, it probably is already covered, but I have to dig into it a little bit. And this is a newer one. Also, we need to update and clarify standards for approval regarding adequacy of public facilities for subdivisions. And this is, I say this with a question mark. because we really already make those findings, but we aren't as explicit in the standards for approval as we could be. So I think we can tweak this and make it much clearer in our code. And then we have, we know that we have to do a unit lot subdivision. And what that means is basically, so that basically any unit on an existing residential lot. So if you have two units, whether they're attached, detached, et cetera, can be subdivided through a unit lot subdivision, which is a simplified short plat. So there's, and there's some model ordinances out there for that, but that is something that we are going to have to address also. Come on.
Lisa, do we have a process for an expedited process for things like lot line adjustments and de minimis encroachments?
We do have, we do for both, actually. So, de minimis encroachments, we talk about as an administrative variance. It's a reduction in the setbacks, but it can only be reduced by 10%. In terms of boundary line adjustments, yes, we have a very simple process. The county actually records them. We go through a process to make sure that they're not creating any new lots.
Yeah.
Segregations or aggregations are even simpler than segregations, but again, we have a process that we go through, so yes.
Start with 4, end up with 4,
Yes,
and they're all legal lots, you're fine.
yes.
Okay.
So it is an administrative review, and it's typically as quick and painless, as long as we don't have, as long as we're not too backed up. Okay, so standards for organic materials management facilities. So we are gonna have to composting. We have to provide some standards for composting facilities because that are consistent with our solid waste management plan, which our solid waste management plan is out of date, and that is not on me to update.
Yay.
So,
This is commercial, this is not like individual residents.
yeah, but I mean, there is a big push on this. We have to incorporate a certain amount of compost into public works projects, et cetera. And so this is trying to make sure that there's a pipeline for the compost materials to go into those projects. So that is a new one also, and I have just read the summary of the bill. I have not gone into the details of it because that's a year down the road.
There you go.
We also have to update our Harvard Road impact fees. Now, we've already said all along that it was our intent to do that post comp plan adoption because our network analysis is going to look at our new build out and is going to identify transportation improvements that are necessary to support that. And we want to make sure that our impact fees are up to date. There are a number of things that we have to do with impact fees. We have to create an option for deferral of single family attached and detached residential impact fees until the time of CO. So people could opt to not pay their impact fees until this certificate of occupancy was issued.
Is that a requirement?
Right now, that's a requirement that we change that. Right now, they're due at the time of building building permit issuance.
So who's requiring that we change it or offer the option to pay it at the end?
The state.
What reason would they have for that? Why wouldn't you want to collect all your fees up front?
So I think it has to do with construction financing versus a traditional mortgage. And trying to defer the requirement until the time you can actually roll it into your mortgage, as opposed to construction financing is more costly. Well, it's more
Yeah,
costly because there's greater risk for the
It
bank.
should all be included. If you got fees,
Right,
they're gonna be in that loan.
right.
Again,
Everything.
I'm not even, I didn't,
Does the
again,
city have to incorporate that?
yes. It has to be an option. We don't necessarily have to advertise.
I know where that conversation goes every time.
Yeah, so.
I'll pay you when you catch me.
Well, we won't issue a CO until they, I mean, we won't issue the CO until, so they can't actually occupy until they paid it. So I mean, there is, you know, some relief, or some way for the city to collect. We also have to exempt impact fees for low income and emergency housing. We have to limit impact fees on ADUs to no more than 50% of the impact fee imposed on the principal unit. Impact fees need to reflect proportionate impact of new housing units based upon their square footage. And I don't even know that there's, I haven't looked at this yet, but I don't know that there's actually real good data out there as it relates to trip generation based upon the square footage of a housing unit. But, that's a whole different question.
Yeah, Sunday.
Square footage. Wow.
That's coming.
So, other required changes in development code, we need to update concurrency and transportation demand. And if you're interested, we do already have it in City Development Code 10-4A-2. But we need to include it explicitly in our transportation element. We also have, we also need to have a memorandum of agreement between local governments and tribes, which to include countywide planning policies to protect tribal resources. For what it's worth, that is already in process. There is an agreement that is between the tribes and the county and all the local jurisdictions that participate in the steering committee of elected officials. So that is in process. It's going to happen at a county-wide level, and we're all party to it. And then we also have to update our architectural design standards to ensure objective design standards, and that's a question mark. So that's what the code, what the checklist says. We already have fairly objective architectural design standards, but having said that, we've been talking for a couple of years about the need to really update them because they're kind of dated. So we just need to be aware that we need to continue to provide very objective standards. So that, in a nutshell, I believe that. Oh, and required changes in the development code. We need to define emergency comprehensive plan amendment. So we do talk about it. We don't have any process or procedure in the code, but in the section related to comp plan amendments, type 4, with their type 4 permits, it does talk about except for emergency comprehensive. I don't know what an emergency comprehensive plan amendment is. I don't. So, but yes, we are required to define what that is. We also have to allow 2 residential units per lot on all lots greater than 1,000 square feet. You already knew that. So that is the sum total of the development code changes to date. But unfortunately, there's another legislative session before our plan is due. So we'll see what happens there. Again, this was principally for informational purposes. I want to kind of keep you aware of what's going to be coming forward as we get into the development code side of things. As I did with housing, I want you to just kind of be aware that, and it's a changing landscape even as we move forward with this. So, again, buckle your seatbelts, folks. Any comments?
No comments, just for the minutes, Jean is here now.
Oh, thank you for. Good job. Welcome, Jean.
Thank you. Please
Yep.
excuse me for being.
Just note,
Yeah.
Commissioner Russell arrived at 4:28.
There you go. Yep, thank you.
Glad you made it.
We're buying a property in downtown. Yeah, I got it all.
Ah,
Okay.
But you made it, so that's what counts. That's right. We'll be invited to the housewarming.
Oh, sure. Oh, sure.
you mean to clean up the house.
No, it's a nice comment.
So I want to say that because I am committed to staying on schedule with this comp plan, I had committed to you that I would be bringing back the economic development chapter update at this meeting. I don't have much to share with you. I did add an implementation section. Based upon the council meeting on May 6th. Didn't really get a whole lot of direction on where they wanted to go, and actually, I'm not sure that we asked a question coherently because all we talked
Question was
about.
asked, there just was no discussion. There was no response.
And so I think that the point of that presentation was that we need to get more, we need to have more data in order to be able to have a more data-driven approach to economic development. I think that's spot on. And that's pretty much one of the goals in this chapter already, so but it will be essential that the city evaluate and invest in economic development strategies that foster, promote, and sustain a vibrant and resilient local economy if we're going to implement the goals and policies of this chapter. So the one thing I did want to add to that, so I think I really, and that's open for conversation. If there's more to be said, I'm not sure that there is, because I don't know that we have any sort of indication that that is a direction that the city is going to go. So I think that this is probably the best that we can say at this moment. The other thing I did want to say, though, is that I have shared with SCJ Alliance an analysis that was done for the city of Spokane that I thought was very well done, very simple. I just don't have time to do it.
Is that a
Yeah.
consulting group?
SCJ Alliance, yeah, they're the ones who have been working on our housing stuff. And they have budget left from the task order for housing that they can accomplish this in. And I think it's very valuable for us to have a little bit more on the history of employment and the trends and the projections going forward for employment. And I think that that's, kind of a starting basis for developing an economic development strategy. So we will be adding that to this chapter. And so they are working on that as we speak. I don't have an ETA on when that'll be done. But when I have something to update on this, I will share that with you because I think it's very good information. And that's really all I had on this. I just thought I'd give you an update. It's not that I'm not working on it. It's that I don't. It's some things take longer than others.
Any
So,
comment?
discussion on that? Any comments on economic development?
Yeah, the first presentation on economic development was done by the managing director, correct?
Yeah, the city administrator,
We
yes.
had a discussion about what a living wage is, and it's referenced in this document, living wage. And in the context of that discussion, I brought up the issue of rent control.
Right.
And how that would even play into that living wage equation. The state has since passed a statewide bill for rent control. My first question I have is, who's supposed to enforce that?
That's a grand question.
The rent control police? I mean, would we?
I think that is, and here's the thing that's challenging about that. So I think the way it would work is, the city of Liberty Lake would not, because we're not a large enough jurisdiction to be able to do that, to have staff to do that. Housing Authority, Spokane Housing Authority would, potentially for Spokane. I don't know if they would extend to Spokane County. There are different organizations that are involved with, rental advocacy. One of the things I will say is that ultimately, they could challenge, a person could challenge it, in court. It would be a civil suit. The challenge is that typically when people don't have enough money to afford the exorbitant rent increase, they probably also don't have enough money to pursue a civil litigation. So do
Do you see the need to incorporate that issue into this element at all?
I don't at this point. It may be relevant for housing, but
It's reality, and
it's reality and I'm not sure that it's been figured that the implementation or the direction of that. They haven't written any WACs that kind of guide how it's supposed to be implemented at this point.
But
So
landlords are already sending out notices.
I'm sorry.
That was in the news this morning was all about the notices of the change to the increase. And they were changing some of the structures from temporary to permanent or permanent to temporary too, very arbitrarily. Whatever it would be to benefit them, because if they bring somebody else in that's new, that doesn't apply. So if they price somebody out, then they can get somebody in and charge higher. They're already starting to do it. It's gonna be in court.
So enforcement would be, you just said by the county, so it would be a local agreement.
So it could potentially be, I honestly, I don't know the answer to that. What I said was Spokane, there is a Spokane Housing Authority.
Right.
I don't know whether it's countywide or not, honestly. And so that we may be able to go through some local agreement.
Right.
It would seem like that would need to,
Who would
we're
initiate
not the
that?
only small community
Right,
that's
so who would
beyond
initiate
our.
that?
I think whatever with you is that I don't think we do anything till we see what the courts say, because it is going to be resolved in court. And there's a whole bunch of civil actions that'll happen. And then the next legislative session will have to fix this mandate.
Next, yeah, got it.
Any other discussion on this?
We have citizen.
Move to citizen comments. Do we have anyone online, Evan?
No.
All right. Seeing none, we will move on to secretary's report.
So a couple things, remind you again, I have updated your schedule, not many changes other than striking out May 14th. But June 11th, we're looking at having the Parks, Recreation and Open Space update. And that will be SCJ Alliance is doing the parks plan. And so they'll be presenting on that. Amy will be reviewing natural environment red lines for you as well at that meeting. And just a forewarning, June 25th, we will be bringing forward the greenhouse gas sub-element, the goals and policies, and urban design red lines and policies. So that's kind of your upcoming schedule just for June. In terms of comp plan public engagement schedule, first of all, thank you, Tom and Jim, for your participation Saturday. We had a pretty good turnout. Probably, I would guess that over the course of the two sessions, we talked to probably 50 people or more. Not all about comp plan, but related things. And so it was actually really good. It was really fun. Had a great band on Saturday. So
It did. And if we're gonna do something like that housing thing, we need to. It needs to be something that is more out there for people to see too. Just
Sure.
Come in and then we had a housing element, and the best participation we had was kids putting houses in the right spot.
and that housing monopoly,
It was monopoly, yeah.
housing monopoly is going to be incorporated into a fall housing town hall, and it's not going to be virtual. It's going to be an in-person, probably a trailhead. So I think that's going to be a much better environment for that. As I said, we tested this out with Citizens Academy a couple weeks ago, and it went over very well. Great conversation, great discussion, great process to kind of get people to think about how this could work in a Liberty Lake-esque sort of way. And we actually have some maps in the R1 zone and some one in the R1 zone and one in the R2 zone that actually show actual neighborhoods. And you have the opportunity to kind of add ADUs or convert existing structures to duplexes in the R1 zone or more than duplexes in the R2 zone. So it is interesting, and we did get into conversations about boundary line adjustments and subdivision and whatnot, and creating new lots where there was a lot of open space. And
Devil's in the details.
it was indeed, yeah, but it was great. And it was like I think we had total of 45 minutes, and it went really fast, and they really had a lot of fun with it. So,
That's good.
so I wanted to share with you just an update on our comp plan engagement activities, and I started to pass this around. I have updated our sign up sheet. We're in very good shape for signups, but I just wanted to share with you. If anybody had any additional dates they wanted to add, we'll pass it around the table again. We're really starting to get, we've got some legs on this. Late May through early June, and it's not probably like the end of this week, we should have the sign code virtual open house and visual preferencing survey up. David's helping me with that, and we're gonna push it out through social media channels and whatnot. We're gonna also push it out to our stakeholder group. I'm going to be sending it to you because I'm gonna want you as planning commission to make sure that you participate in that, so we get your feedback too. You are very much key informants on that. And we'll push it out on social media. I'm also gonna look at purchasing an email list for businesses in Liberty Lake to see if I can push it out to the businesses and see if we can get some input from them. So that's that. Again, comp plan engagement for farmers market is ongoing. You can take a look at the list as we go around the table, but it's filling up, and we have some community engagement members and some Parks and Arts Commission members also participating in that, which is really exciting to see. June 12th.
Just quick, while you're passing that list around for the farmer's market. I'd signed up for June 7th, but I'm gonna be out of town from the 7th.
Okay, need to cross your.
So you need to take my name off of there,
Okay, June 7th.
June 7th, yeah.
Okay, I will take your name off.
Yep.
Pass this around. But again, it's a very enjoyable morning. It really is. And hopefully we can, really get a lot of, points of contact throughout the summer. We will also be at Barefoot, as we mentioned. On June 12th, we have a transportation network analysis and virtual town hall meeting from 6 to 7:30. And that's really going to be kind of going over the data that we've collected to date, the network, and what some of the growth patterns are that we're looking at. And we'll be able to, it's a pretty interactive, it'll be good. The next one will be even more interesting because we'll be able to put some models up and run transportation as a full build out scenario. So that'll be kind of that'll be I think very, very informative. Climate Element virtual open house. We're shooting for mid-June through mid-July on that. And that is going to be a story map with some where people can take the story map is already there where you can take the deeper dive, but we're adding the climate resiliency piece to it. We're also, or the greenhouse gas piece to it. We're also embedding some surveys in there that ways to engage people on that piece. So that'll be cool. August 2nd, we're Barefoot in the Park, Housing Town Hall. We originally were thinking this summer, but I really want to get people out to it. And summer's a terrible time to engage people. We couldn't get it in before the schools were out. So we're thinking September or October.
Do you have any details for the Barefoot? What we're gonna have in the booth?
So we're gonna have a bunch of our comp plan engagement. We have the pieces that we have. This is just the beginning of it. We're gonna continue with the dot exercises. We will have I think we're going to have a place where flip chart where people can write what would
Good.
you hope to be the outcome of this comp plan? Those sorts of things, and just, we'll try and have as much of the material as we go through each of these, we'll have more and more materials. So, it'll kind of almost be a culminating, table with a lot of different aspects.
Do we have any swag to hand out
Um,
other than the penny candy?
I think we talked about possibly getting seeds or something like that to hand out.
Great.
So again, that was a suggestion from our climate resiliency team. And in the also September, October timeframe, and it may slip a little bit, we're also looking at trying to do a Firewise town hall and energy conservation town hall. So, and again, I think that those are the two big goals that came out of, that are coming out of climate. And so let's dig down deep and see what individuals can do to really make a difference in those two topics. So that is kind of what we have on tap thus far. Our schedules are getting pretty busy. But I'm feeling good about the level of engagement we have. Lance has put together a spreadsheet and we are tracking engagement contacts, engagement activities, so that we're gonna have a pretty good summary at the end of this as to if people haven't heard about the comp plan by the end of this, it won't be for lack of trying.
Now, whether they care is a whole nother.
Well, yeah, I understand and I know, anyhow. And I also did want to just share with you that city council is going to be starting to really dip their toes in the water here also. I mean, we had a presentation of the housing element on June 20th. It was very well received and
May 20th.
May 20th, yeah.
Yeah.
And so it was very well received. They blessed it in terms of pushing the working draft out to our utility providers, our emergency service providers, the school district, et cetera, this stuff. So I'm in the process of getting that pushed out with the housing chapter and the land capacity analysis. On July 1st, we're going to be presenting the greenhouse gas sub-element. And asking for, at a workshop on the 1st, but asking for their approval for the working draft on July 15th, so we can submit it to Commerce. They have a 120-day review period, but if they give us their certification, they will defend us if someone sues us. So I think that's why we stepped up the pace on this.
Do you need us there for any of the workshops?
You know, I think that it's always good. I am going to be inviting our climate planning action team to that workshop on July 1st. And oh, by the way, we're going to be presenting certificates to
Good.
Krista and the students. We will, we'll have certificates for the rest of the committee, but we have one more meeting in the fall, but the students are surprisingly, they're gonna move on.
Some of them are gonna be in college.
Exactly. So anyhow, so we wanted to make sure that they were recognized because they've really been a key contributors in that. Sign code and co-housing amendments, we're gonna have a workshop at City Council. Following your hearing in August, we'll have a workshop on September 2nd. And we'll have the hearing on September 17th. So all your work is doing exactly what it's supposed to. You're providing information to City Council, and we're sharing it with City Council to bring them along. You guys have been entrenched in this process. I know you've been drinking from the fire hose, and we're just trying to make sure that we can bring council along with all of you as we move through this comp plan. So that was my very long-winded report, but
All
the
right.
good news is I'm done.
Any comments, questions about that? We'll move on to commissioner reports. Any planning commissioner reports? Then the next thing is who would like to move for adjournment?
Move to adjourn.
Sure.
Commissioner Jenks, is there a second?
Was there gonna be this administrative interpretation? Was there gonna be any discussion on that?
I did mean to do that under Secretary's report. I did want to see if anybody had any questions or comments or concerns about that.
No, it's,
None. We,
do we need to do anything?
You don't need to do anything. I make, so part of the section of code that gives me the authority to do that also says that I'm to report to you from time to time on these.
Okay.
I try and keep you in the loop on it. And when we do these administrative interpretations, if no one appeals, the intent is that it would be incorporated in the next code amendment. So I just trying to keep you in the loop.
Okay.
And you guys keep me honest with those.
good. Is there any update on Top Golf?
Just that, that was, we have a lot of questions on that. And the answer is that they are in process. They are still developing their plans. They have had a little bit of a delay because they're going through a corporate reorganization. And they need to complete that corporate reorganization before they finance the project, surprisingly.
And Costco? Are they gone or?
So, no, or yes, they are not considering the area. They are not considering the
They
area.
have a verbal term,
Sorry?
Wizard of Oz the whole time.
What?
They were behind the curtain. They never came out and said they were interested in it the whole time. Very dis.
But the big box that shall remain nameless has made it clear that they're no longer interested.
Thank goodness.
Well, it was mixed at the farmer's market. A lot of people were, especially people that were not from Liberty Lake.
Oh, right, yeah. Of course.
For the traffic issue, it's just,
And to
It's getting
Dean's
to be
part,
horrendous.
land is Top Golf looking at.
So it is the property that is just to the east of Kramer Parkway, north of Country Vista. And that's not just going to be Top Golf. There's actually going to be some commercial pads along the Country Vista frontage and actually extending up the entrance to consigned furniture. That's a shared driveway.
So when you get to the bottom of the hill, just go straight.
Yep. In one of 7 entrances.
Did I hear a second on that motion?
now we have a motion. We have a motion in need of a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.